Well, for more, we can speak to Tetyana Ogarkova, journalist at the Ukraine Crisis Media Center. Hello to you, Tetyana. First of all, just want to get your reaction from that soundbite that we were listening to from Volodymyr Zelensky. What emotions, or did you have any emotions stirred up in you when you listened to it?
Well, this speech was extremely well written, so surely enough, we listened to the integrity of Zelensky's speech back today in the morning. For sure, we have many mixed feelings because for sure we are proud of Ukraine still defending against Russian aggression. But at the same time, there are a lot of feelings, sad feelings about all Ukrainians who are sacrificed their lives for us being able to be here today. This feeling of sacrifice, this feeling also of that independence in some way is a fragile thing. So we have to fight, be it on the front line, be it in Kyiv, in Lviv, and Ternopil. We all have to contribute for this country to exist. So there is a joy, but a lot of tears at the time on Maidan Square, the gathering of families of lost citizens, both military and civilians, and prisoners who are still in prison in Russia. So many families paid the highest price, if the word price is adequate here, for us to be here and to continue to defend our country.
Yeah, and they observed a minute of silence earlier to recognize that. Ukraine is still a young country. 34 years ago, it declared independence from the Soviet Union. Give us a history lesson, if you will. How has a country changed over that time?
Well, first of all, Ukraine is not as young as 34 years old because there was a Ukrainian states back in Middle Ages and in 17th century. And let us not forget about the independence of Ukrainian independence in the beginning of the 20th century, right? So it didn't last for a long time. So we are a young country with a long history. So, but for sure, what we could observe during these 34 years of independence, of recent independence, is that country changed a lot. So we started like a country, post-Soviet country, very much in a turbulence time, economical crisis, etc. But now, and this feeling, I remember this feeling of mixed feelings in the beginning of the 19th. But now, if you ask Ukrainians what they're feeling about being Ukrainian, most of people would reply saying that we are proud to be Ukrainians because this continuous war which Russia started against Ukraine 11 years ago, because I would like to remind that the war started in 2014. Russia aggressed us in Crimea and in Donbass. It helped a lot in a way, in a paradoxical way, to consolidate the nation. And now, with all the sacrifices people made during these years, we feel like a united nation and very strong one, and who defend his country.
Yeah, our correspondent in Kyiv was saying how Independence Day wasn't usually a major event in Ukraine, but since 2014 and especially since 2022, it's grown in significance.
Yes, exactly. So it's a kind of a reaction, and many people switched, for example, to Ukrainian language. Many people were talking about the no difference with talking in Russian in Ukrainian. Would you be ignorant about Ukrainian history or not? Now people are much more conscious because new generation came as well. So young people who start their adult life today, they were born in a free country, right? So 34 years ago. So this active generation who are on the front line, but also in other cities in Kyiv, whatever, in Lviv, in one of front Kyiv, who are building the country, who are changing the country. They are young, they were born in a free country, so they are changing the approach, the general approach. Now we are all proud. We are uncertain about our future because everybody understands how fragile the situation is and how all the sacrifices we've made, they are still not sufficient to live in peace. But most mostly the Ukrainian population hope for a peaceful future and for future Ukrainian victory, which would be the restoration of justice, international law, and the normal life will go on.
Today's special guest at the celebrations was Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney. We're looking at images of him on the screen as we're holding this interview. In the audience, though, was the U.S. Special Envoy, Keith Kellogg. Those two men probably have very different visions of what a peace agreement would look like. How do Ukrainians feel?
Well, for the moment, we don't talk about peace agreement because the problem with the peace agreement is that the country who started this war, the Russian Federation, they don't want peace. Look, all these meetings in Alaska and then in Washington is very maybe productive in Washington, but and Trump is talking about possible meeting between Zelensky and Putin. But for that moment, we haven't received any kind of clear signs about the willingness of the Russian Federation leader to participate in this meeting. So Russia clearly doesn't want war. It doesn't want this war to be ended by an agreement. So this reality of a deal at this very moment exists only in Trump's idea about how it could happen. As if you talk about Canada Prime Minister, good news for today that Ukraine will be receiving 700 million of military aid, many different aid. This is very important, and we try to see how it goes. But unfortunately, all these long months, starting from winter 2025, talks about peace. They simply don't bring peace for a simple reason: Putin will accept real negotiations only in a situation of a highest possible pressure, both economic and military pressure on Russia. And at this very moment, we are not at all in this kind of situation.
And if I may just press you on that point, though, one common criticism of Russia is that it's not clear if they'd be making any concessions at all. We know what Russia wants from Ukraine, but we don't know what it's willing to give up. So, Tetyana, I just want to ask you, if there were a peace deal and if Ukraine did have to make concessions, what would you yourself be willing to concede, and what would you hope that Russia would concede?
Well, the response is pretty clear. We have to come back to what is important for all the democratic world. We have to come back to international law and to respect for internationally recognized borders. And we have to come to supreme justice where an aggressor is punished for his aggression. So we cannot accept to live in a world where a stronger country could easily aggress weaker country and change borders. I think this is common knowledge and this is common understanding.
And sorry, Tetyana, changing borders, you would go back to 2014 or would you look at 2022?
Well, I guess France, from where you're speaking, recognizes Ukraine in the frontiers of the Independence Day. So let us talk about really existing borders. It could not happen tomorrow or maybe in a decade, but let's stand firmly on what is right. And this aggression from Russian Federation, both in 2014 and in 2022, was illegal and not justified. So let's be strong about principles, because otherwise you're just opening the way for any kind of dictatorship on this globe, which would think that they can aggress different countries just because they can.
Tetyana, thank you very much. Tetyana Ogarkova speaking to us from the Ukraine Crisis Media Center. Thank you to you, and happy Independence Day.